Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for being here, those of you that are here. Today, we have a special board meeting of the Board of Trustees of the McAllen Independent School District that's being held Wednesday, July 30th, 2025, beginning at 5:30 p.m. at the Dr. Ricardo Chapa Boardroom Administration Building of the McAllen Independent School District, 2000 North 23rd Street, McAllen, Texas, 78501. At this meeting, there may be discussion by the board on the items and subjects listed as follows. Item number 1, call the meeting to order. I've done so at 5:30 p.m. Item number 2, public comments. I believe we have one public comment, and we will call you, as soon as we play this brief message.
Here are the public comment procedures. Number 1, individuals who wish to participate during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment shall sign up at McAllenISD.org at least 1 hour prior to the start of the scheduled meeting. Number 2, an individual's comments to the board shall not exceed 2 minutes per meeting. Number 3, the board shall not tolerate disruption of the meeting by members of the audience. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Número 1. Las personas que deseen participar durante la parte de la reunión designada por comentarios públicos deberán registrarse en McAllenISD.org al menos 1 hora antes del inicio de la reunión programada. Número 2. Los comentarios de un individuo a la Junta no excederán de 2 minutos por reunión. Y por último, número 3. La Junta no tolerará la perturbación de la reunión por parte de los miembros del público asistente. Gracias.
All right, so we have Ms. Fanny Johnson. Ms. Johnson, you'll have 2 uninterrupted minutes. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and audience members. My comment is, as a parent, I am supportive of whatever policy is established at the school for our children. But I would like clarification as to what I need to do as a parent if I need to reach my child in an emergency situation and it is school hours. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. We have item number 3, report regarding House Bill 1481, personal communication devices. Dr. Gutierrez.
Yes, if I may, Mr. President and the Board of Trustees, if we can combine 3 and 4, because I think it's the discussion that we're going to have. It kind of like involves both items based on our presentation and the questions that that we have, as well as the discussion that we're going to have.
For the sake of the viewing audience, can we just read them, just
Sure.
the actual item?
So item number 3 is the report regarding House Bill 1481, personal communication devices. Item number 4 is discussion of McAllen ISD policy, FNCE, local student conduct.
Okay. So what we are going to be presenting this evening is on House Bill 1481 that was approved by the legislators. This has to do with personal communication devices. This is a requirement now. It's by law we have to comply. We have to adopt a policy and some procedures, and so we called for this special called meeting so that we can open up a discussion. This is more of a discussion, first reading. We will have to bring the final reading and the final approval to the Board of Trustees on August the 12th at our regular scheduled board meeting. However, for us to be able to bring the final policy for the board to adopt on August the 12th, we wanted to have this meeting to have a discussion and finalize what that policy is going to be and what we are going to bring to the board on August the 12th. In the audience, I have committee members who have been involved in this with this new requirement, House Bill 1481, as well as principals are here in the event that there's questions. And we can also hear our principals' input, since they're going to be the ones in the front lines with the teachers and the staff enforcing this new requirement on House Bill 1481. There are some options. There are very few options, but there are some options, and we're going to talk about those options. And and see what the Board of Trustees and committee members and principals who are here, what we are going to be bringing on August the 12th for the second reading. And so this is an open discussion, and our legal has also been very involved, Mr. John Ball, along with Dr. Canales, reviewing this new Bill 1481 that we're asked to comply with. So I'm going to go ahead and, at this time, turn it over to Dr. Canales, because we have a PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll have that open discussion on some things that the Board of Trustees want to know more about or talk about, and some items that you may want to include in the policy, in the final policy for August the 12th. So go ahead, Dr. Canales, if you can start the PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll start the discussion after that.
Yes, sir. So we'll go ahead and begin. So this is on personal communication devices for House Bill 1481. We do have the members of the committees here. I know that Jesse from Student Support Services has been working alongside me to create this here, so I'm going to go over this presentation with you all. So what is House Bill 1481, right? It's a House bill, it mandates that school districts and open enrollment charter schools adopt a written policy prohibiting students from using personal communication devices, for example, cell phones, tablets, laptops, smartwatches, smart glasses, or any other electronic device capable of telecommunication or digital communication on school property during the school day. This policy must outline disciplinary measures for violations and may include provisions for device confiscation. Exceptions are provided for students with medical needs or those requiring the device for IEPs or Section 504 plans. So the instructional day, right? We look at that part of it there. For elementary, the instructional day is 7:45 to 3:10. For middle school, it is 8 to 4:05, and for high school, it is 8:15 to 4:15. So what's a personal communication device here? So means a telephone, cell phone, such as a smartphone or flip phone, tablets, laptops, unless provided by the district, smart watches, smart glasses, radio devices, paging devices, or any other electronic device capable of telecommunication or digital communication. The law became effective immediately upon Governor Abbott's signature on June 20th, 2025. School districts must adopt this policy and enforce it for the 25-26 school year and beyond. So exceptions allowed. It talks about what can we do. So it says students can use devices during school hours if they have one, medical needs. So examples are students with documented medical conditions requiring device use. Examples for monitoring or communication may be exempt. Section 504 or IEP accommodation, such as students with disabilities. For 504 plans that necessitates devices access or device access for learning or support are also exempt. Right, and that's usually in the 504 RTI or ARD paperwork there. And then school-issued devices, so devices provided by school district for instructional activities are not covered by the ban. Right, so we know that we do provide laptops, and we do provide Chromebooks for our students, so that is allowable. And then safety, legal reasons, school administrators may grant exceptions for safety or legal reasons. So how it works here, we only have two options that we can choose from. So one is to say a total ban, right? So districts can choose to prohibit students from bringing communication devices onto school properties. We can just say, you know what, we're not allowing any students to bring any devices to any of our campuses. That's option number one. And option number two is to provide a secure storage. So districts can allow students to bring devices, but require them to be stored in a designated secure area, such as a backpack, pouch, purse, or other out-of-sight location during the instructional day. This was the option selected by our committee, or this is the option they would like to go with, but we'll discuss that a little bit. So here's a student code of conduct. This is the consequences that we researched a lot of different districts from throughout the state. We came up with this student code of conduct here. So first offense, warning and documented on the discipline document form. Second offense, we're looking at the device will be confiscated and documented on the form again. The student must pick up the device at the end of the school day from the campus administrator. And then we have the third offense here. We have it'll be confiscated and another discipline, this time it will be a discipline referral will be issued. And the student will receive a discipline referral for lunch detention or the consequences. And a parent or guardian must pick up the device from the campus administrator. And the fourth offense and subsequent offenses, we're looking at confiscation of the device, another referral be issued, and then looking at 3 days of in-school suspension or other consequences as deemed by the CBC. Parent or guardian must pick up the device from the campus principal. And then we did add a clause there about the district not being liable or responsible for any kind of lost, stolen, broken devices on the previous slide there, at the very bottom. So in the student handbook, that we're gonna go over in a little bit as well, so we added here possession and use of personal communication devices, including cell phones and other electronic devices. So in accordance with the state law, the district prohibits the use of personal communication devices such as cell phones, tablets, and smartwatches while on school property during the school day. For more information about permitted use in certain circumstances, the disciplinary measure that apply to this prohibition, see the Student Code of Conduct and Policy FNC local. Right, and we'll have links to this on the actual Student Code of Conduct that'll go out to the students. On this part here, it does talk about the use of cell phones or any device capable of capturing images, strictly prohibited in locker rooms or restroom areas while at school or on school-related or school-sponsored events. If a student uses a personal device here, a communication device without authorization during the school day, the student will be disciplined in accordance with the Student Code of Conduct, and the parent may pick up the confiscated communication device from the principal's office. Confiscated communication devices that are not retrieved by the student or the student's parents will be stored accordingly to administrative regulation. And that one, they kind of gave you leeway of discarding the device after a certain amount of time. We just chose to store it and just give the parent opportunity to come by and pick it up. So we did have that leeway there, but we don't want to be throwing away devices. So here's some items that we have for discussion. One, we know that the House Bill 1481, there's only two things we can do. One is either not allow them to bring them at all, or allow them to bring them and they store them in a certain area, right? Like we brought up the backpack, purse, bag. The second one, all students must keep their phones stored away. So what we want to talk about here is, do we do everything for the same for elementary, middle school, and high school? And that's like for today's discussion. Do we separate it? Do elementary, we say maybe they don't bring it for elementary, or they do bring it and they store it in their cubby for middle school? That's items for discussion right now. And then the exceptions, of course, we know that they have to be documented on a medical health and safety and IEP 504 plan. And then we put under the treating physician cannot be the actual parent. And then consequences for violation of the policy that we already brought up to you all. That is up for discussion as well. Like, are those good consequences? Do we need to add different ones? Are there other variations? And then are teachers allowed to use their cell phone? This one's been coming up. Like, can teachers use it? I know the ban doesn't say that teachers can use it, but maybe just during the instructional time to set the example as well for kids is what's come up to this area here.
So then.
This time we can open
Yeah,
up.
now we would like to open up a discussion, because there's some things we can do to kind of come to a compromise where we all can, we all can live with this new policy that we need to adopt. The committee, going back, is they would like for the students to have their cell phone just to be put away either in their backpack or their purse, and we can, that's what our committee is recommending. But then now we need to look at, there's different levels. There's the elementary kids, the middle school kids, and the high school kids. Do we set the same, and the part of the discussion, do we set the same standards for all elementary through high school? And, that they can bring the phone, or is it only secondary kids but not elementary? So those are the things that we need to talk about. Also with what Ms. Johnson, who made some public comments about the use of the phone in event of an emergency, because I think as I'm been talking to parents out in the community, that's one thing that they bring up. They understand the phones need to be completely off limits during the day at school, but they also like to know that if there's an emergency, can they use the phone, and if they can, how we can put that in policy as well and talk about that. Because that's the number one thing that has come up from parents is if there's an emergency, will they be allowed to use their phone? And And I think they should, but those are the things that we need to talk about and how we can put that in policy as well. So it's open for discussion but the basic here is that the phone cannot be utilized during the day, during the school day, from bell to bell. Bell is at the beginning of the day till the end of the day. That's for sure. They can use it. And now we can say, do we allow all kids to bring it and put away as the committee is recommending, or do we have different, treat the elementary different from secondary? Those are things that we need to talk about. So it's open for discussion.
And we did check with TASB, just so you all do know, because I know there were some questions that were brought up to me on, what is it, instructional time, right? Like period by period. TASB and then our legal as well have interpreted as instructional day. So it's not by instructional time, it's not during lunch, it's the whole instructional day.
So for storage would look like they arrived to school, storing it would look like they arrived to school, put it away somewhere central, or
We're
in
saying
their
it's in their
locker,
bag, it's
or-
in their backpack, it's in their athletic
But
locker.
we're not providing
We're
a
not providing,
storage space.
no.
But part of the requirements is that the phone cannot be, it has to be out of sight.
Correct.
And so, I don't think we want to put it on the teachers to be having to collect phones as they go into classroom and then collect the phones as they go out, because then that's not out of sight anymore. The phones are gonna be invisible. They cannot be visible. So what the committee had recommended was backpack, a purse, somewhere where it just is not going to be, it's gonna be in their possession, but not visible, out of sight, and turned off.
And what would be deemed an emergency? Like, I know us as parents, when we get text messages of a lockdown or lockout, like,
Yeah.
we get nervous too. So at that point, would they have access to their phone, or, I mean, that's,
And I think that's what we have to define as a board.
I think that's a good question, like a fire drill or whatever might be going on. And then does the teacher have discretion, or is it have to be campus-wide?
I can tell you one thing that has worked, right? When we have had emergencies at the school, you know, our plan has always been to tell students, you know, if it's a lockdown, that we're in lockdown, that we're quiet, we're not texting, we're not on the phones, we're not causing, you know, any undue stuff, because we gotta be hidden, we gotta be silent, right? What we've done is during that lockdown process, as we were getting more information, the principal usually come on the intercom and will say, you know what, everything is safe at this time, please take out your phones, send a message to your parents that you're okay, you know, let them know that you cannot communicate back and forth, but we are letting you know that everything's fine at the school, and we give them step by step. But that's done by the principal of the campus on the intercom, just to give kids a peace of mind knowing that nothing actually at the actual campus is going on. Now, it is a true emergency. We definitely want it to be, you know, as quiet as possible in that classroom without phones going off. That's one of the
But don't we send a message out?
We also send a message out, too.
So I think that,
Correct.
you know, coming on and saying, get your phones and call your parents or text your parents, kind of, it's a gray area for them to maybe, I'm not gonna text my parents, but I'm gonna text my buddy and everybody else, and it's an opportunity to. I got a question that just came in on my cell phone, but somebody wants to know if it's gotta be out of sight and off. I think off, right?
It would have to be off because, you know, phones
can hear
ringing or
them when
live,
they're
yes. Yeah.
Vibrating.
Yeah, and if you go to the slide before, so we can also talk about the emergency because there's a fire drill, there's a lockdown. Go to the slide before. On the exceptions?
On the off function, you know, I've heard from several parents that would be okay with, you know, having the cell phone ban, cell phones required to be in the backpacks, but they like to be able to track. So if the phone's off, you're gonna have
Good point.
a lot of parents that aren't able to
No.
determine where their child is at.
That's a good point.
maybe just on do not disturb, because then you don't get ringing or beeping, but it's still on. Because airplane mode is basically off too, right?
Right, you can't access.
So maybe just,
Can they track it on airplane mode?
No.
No.
I would add one caveat to that, and the lawyer in me says you use the common use of the language, and the language says use, and tracking, that's use. So I do have concerns with saying we're gonna allow kids to leave them on. I think we need to be fairly firm that use means turned off, and that's what the guidance has been that we've received from TASB. I think that's the
Well,
guidance that I would go with.
the bill does say students shall not use, right?
Correct.
But having the phone on doesn't imply the student's using it, even if the parent's tracking it, or even if apps are functional.
We
On the
won't
phone.
know if it's on, if it's in the bag and it's on complete silent,
Right. We
it's
won't
not
know
gonna
anyway.
vibrate, it's not gonna do anything, so.
And then, to your point, you'd set up a violation of the policy if somebody has their cell phone on, not disturbing anybody, on complete silent. That student is now in violation of a policy, even though it's causing no disturbance and within the spirit of the law.
Okay.
I think our district has really good systems in place and security measures and communication measures as well. And I'm of the mindset that we securely store and we just go through our regular procedures for, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. I understand the desire to have that quick communication with your child or whoever. At the same time, sometimes that can amount to even more chaos in stressful situations or, you know, whatever. And I know our district already sends messages to parents when things are going on. So I wonder if we can, I would hate to be just driven by worst case scenario situations, even though it's important to be thinking of those things. But it does seem to defeat the whole purpose of why this bill was even, you know, passed. So I don't know, what do we think about just securely storing it for the whole day, and in emergency situations, I mean,
The
parents
district communicates
gets
with the district,
gets
communicates
communication
with
from the
parents.
district.
The standard protocol, if there was an emergency, and we just need to say the elephant in the room, is we have a active shooter type situation. The guidance is nobody talks, nobody gets on their cell phone.
Correct.
You can't. You have to have people that are absolutely quiet. You have to have the airways free to
Right.
communicate. So I know that's not of any comfort to anybody that's listening, but it defeats the whole purpose of what the lockdown is, to allow people to make those calls. Now, certainly once it's done and the principals make a determination, you can send out a message to family members. That's, I think that would be well within the spirit of the law to allow that to happen, but there would be no reason to have somebody communicating while there's an
Right.
ongoing emergency.
Just
you
for the
know- oh,
record,
go ahead.
in a current lockdown situation, the decision to send a message to parents or the community does not rest at the principal level. It rests at the superintendent and administrative level, correct?
Correct.
So, starting on the first day of school in the 25-26 school year, we could potentially have a policy in place where if there were a lockdown type of situation, and that message was communicated to the community and to parents via our already established policies and procedures, we could also establish a communication protocol whereby the central office and administration could similarly communicate that we have lifted temporarily the restriction on personal communication devices in order for you to communicate with your student, correct?
Certainly could. I can see some hurdles we'd have to jump to be able to figure that out, because I think, again, it would open the floodgates to the phone calls and the text messages coming in afterwards while you're still trying to sort.
Okay.
But again, we're operating from the worst-case scenario, and I would have a sense that if you're dealing with worst-case scenario, much of this stuff is going to go out the window anyways, as to whether somebody's going to say, well, there's a policy in place that says
Absolutely.
I can't use my phone, I'm going to get lunchtime detention if I use my phone. Well, you know,
In a matter of life and death.
yeah, I'll run that
Yeah.
risk, you know, and if it was my child, I'd
Absolutely,
take that
absolutely.
risk.
So, thank you for that clarification. I personally think that having that decision rest at the central office and administrative level is much preferable to having that decision rest at the campus level with the principals, just for clarity and consistency's sake. To the other, I would say, important consideration, the language of the law is pretty clear. It prohibits use, not possession. So I think the recommendation, and thank you to the folks on the discipline committee who deliberated on this, that recommendation sits well with me. That's where I was thinking coming into the conversation, that we would not prohibit possession, but that we would prohibit use during the school day. The third thing that is on my mind is the prohibition on use is inclusive of smartwatches. And lots of people use both their phone as a watch and their smartwatch as a watch. And as written, 1481 will require us to similarly implement secure possession of any telecommunication devices, inclusive of smartwatches. And so starting on the first day of school, whichever way we ultimately go on this, I think it's important for members of our community, including our staff, to know that essentially a smartwatch cannot be worn on a student's wrist on a go-forward basis. These have to be stored away in the same way that a phone or a personal tablet or other communication device would. The fourth thing that I've been thinking about, may feel odd for me to say this, I think the policy is going to be the easy part. Changing habits and changing culture is much, much harder than changing writing in paper. And so, both as a parent and as somebody who thinks a lot about how schools operate, I love the fact that I have been able to receive real-time communications from my students' teachers over the course of a school day about changes in schedules, including things like, we thought we were going to have tutoring at the end of school, but we're no longer going to have tutoring at the end of school. And sometimes I have received those messages 15, 20 minutes before the end of the school day, and I then have to communicate very quickly with my student about where to be so that they can get a safe ride home. And so I think habits around staff, so we have this question, are teachers allowed? Obviously, there's lots of educational apps that are used on these tools and these systems. Some of the systems we use are school-issued systems, like on a Chromebook or other device. Some of them, I would imagine, are on teachers' personal systems. And so I think the cultural change of shifting plans during the middle of a day when a parent has already dropped off their child and is unable to then communicate with the child about the change in plan for school pickup is a large-scale cultural change that is going to take some time for us to get used to. And there was one other thing that was on my mind. On the consequences, I really appreciate, one, that there is a escalating set of consequences here. I have seen other school districts implement like a fine or a recovery fee. I do not think that I would be personally in support of a fine or a recovery fee, but I think the escalating scale of consequences makes sense. And there was one other thing, which is that, oftentimes we ask, well, how did we do this before our kids had cell phones? Well, I never had kids before kids had cell phones, but when I was a kid and there was a message, my parents would call the school. And we are not in the habit of doing that, generally, by and large. I am not, and I'm guilty of it as well. But in this shift, I would say we should be prepared for a lot more incoming phone calls to the campus receptionists.
That's true.
And therefore a lot more messages to be relayed from the central or the campus receptionists to individual teachers in individual classrooms. And I don't want to go as far as trying to regulate or determine what are the types of messages that we communicate to students immediately versus not, but this is going to, again, represent a large-scale cultural change that feels much more significant in a world of constant communication than whatever the policy on the paper is. And as a school board, we debate policy on paper, but as a community, we define the culture, and that is going to take a collaborative effort between parents, our staff, our school board, and ultimately our students as well. So I know I've said a lot there, but that was a lot of what's been on my mind over the past couple weeks.
And I do have Judith here, and I'd like to ask if we could bring her up, because we do have an app that we do have that's called Aptogy. Kids do have that on their Chromebook. It is pushed out to them. So if they need to do something with parents and communication, that'll be how we communicate. Because we do have Chromebooks, so that will help solve some of those problems. But Judith, you can talk about that?
Yes, the good thing is that we were able to leverage the product that we call ThrillShare, the way that we communicate with parents, and we tell them if there was a hold or if there's any emergency going on in the district or events. We were able to add another product called Rooms. And Rooms is actually a product that allows for us to have another layer of communication with our parents. And the campus can send communication directly to our parents, and that would be campus-driven. Or the teacher can directly communicate with the parent. And at the secondary level, the teachers can communicate with students. And all of it is district operated. We can do discoveries, and we also have the capability for principals to do their own discovery in case they're, have questionable interactions, or maybe someone didn't respond properly, or maybe they didn't respond promptly. So this gives us a lot more visibility that we've had in the past. And it is controlled through the district. It is a application that we are going to start this year. We are going through a tweaking process this semester, but the cutoff will be January 1st, where this will be one of the only products we can use for communication. The other product that we will have at elementary is Class Dojo. Class Dojo doesn't have as much enhancements as Apogee does, but it will allow the teachers to communicate with the parents, and the same thing with the campus principals as well. So if you'd like for us to go into more details on how these applications work, I'd love to have a one-on-one. It is lengthy, and it is different than what we've done in the past, but it will give us a lot more visibility for our district, and creates better communication within our community.
So for those apps, I would like to see a communication be sent out, which I'm sure you guys are planning already, but prior to, just to inform them, if you're already planning on using those apps,
Yes.
I'd say we start rolling it out so that parents, we don't come day one. And
Yes.
because we're going to implement this policy August 12th, a couple days before school starts.
We did provide communication through community info. It's basically the McAllen ISD app. I don't know if you have it on your phones now. That is the application that we can get feeds and communication back and forth from the district. That application will have the Rooms enhancement built into that.
Okay.
We will have more detailed training available for possibly if parents have a hard time logging in or if there's issues. But we will be also helping campuses to make sure how do you log into the device, right, as a parent? You either use the email address that you put in Skyward or the phone number that you put in Skyward, and that's how you're able to log into the application.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to just, if I may.
Yeah.
We do have parents that are not technology savvy, and so through our parent education program, can we also make sure that those parents who maybe have not as fancy technology, or maybe don't have that use of technology, that they rely on a call or whatever. I know that they've been using the dojo system for a long time, and that they've been successfully communicating that way. But this is a big change, not just in the technology, but just the law itself is a big change for everybody. So I know I'm probably preaching to the choir, right? But let's make sure that parents in the next couple of weeks, because that's all we've got left, are hearing this and able to ask questions every single day from here to there. I would hate to have a parent that gets a phone confiscated or something like that because they just, fall behind because they're not technology savvy or don't really rely on technology as much. They're going to need it.
I just want to clarify that this initiative is not an initiative due to this mandate. It is just coincidence that it ended up at this realm, right? But it is something that the district has been looking for, to create district communication standards. So we don't have all these different applications for the district, so we can streamline communication, and that's what we were trying to
And I can
accomplish.
appreciate that, but prior to that, without this law, it was going to take some time to get used to and all of that. Now we have a law starting in 2 weeks that they need to be able to get information.
The products do allow for SMS, meaning text messaging, so they would still get some information. But I think definitely leveraging the application would be in a parent's best interest. We will have parent involvement, librarians, and my technology staff in the mornings available for parents that need additional, technical support.
What about I'm sorry, what about a mail out to the parents? Those
Yes.
things are planned?
Yes.
As much information as they can get.
Okay.
We have that plan. So I
Yes,
know
we will.
during the back-to-school bash, I know we did promote Aptity or this, and parents were actually downloading the app and actually signing up already for that already. So I know we'll work with our kids for sure. And then I think during the registration process today, I know that some of the principals are already doing that already to let the parents know that this is a way we're going to be communicating with our parents now.
And just to be clear, the app is called McAllen ISD. So that's what we would look for in the Play
The App
Store
Store.
or in our Apple Store. Okay?
And, sorry, go ahead.
I think trustee Carmona.
Yeah, are we prepared to guide parents on how to download and set up an account at schedule pickup and meet the teacher night over the next 7 to 10 days?
I'm not sure if we'd be ready at that time, but we can carve out time. The reason is that that is a very fast-paced process.
Yeah.
We can allow for the campuses to say, hey, my technician's available from 7:30 to 10 a.m. to help any parent that needs extra help for 2, 3 weeks, whatever you need.
Yep.
But the staff will be available in the library to help with that.
Great.
But
Thank
even-
you.
Trustee, oh, sorry.
Even if they have like QR codes at,
Yes.
at schedule pickup, because a lot of times you go and you sign in and then you wait for a long time before you
That's
actually
true.
get to.
That's a good
so-
point. We do have the QR code available that people will be able to scan. So we'll increase communication. We'll work with community info to make sure that we provide as much information as possible, not just here, but also at the campus level, maybe get some parent involvement groups. I don't know, whatever it'll take, but we'll help to get this information out.
Thanks. Trustee Haddad?
Yeah, I think, one, I just have a comment on this discussion. I think some trustees have already brought it up for, when we adopt this policy on August 12th, it'd be good to see what the communication plan is to parents, to students, to teachers, on what the policy, cell phone policy is. I know you won't have the actual policy till we approve it, but I think this discussion will inform that. But how we communicate that to our to our whole community, whether it's parents, teachers, students, is going to be extremely important. And I think it can be rolled into the McAllen ISD app discussion we're having here about how parents can communicate with the school, since they won't have access, students won't have access to cell phone. And then I'm glad Trustee De La Garza just brought up QR code, because that was one of my notes. I've had a couple teachers tell me that a lot of our communications to students is currently on QR code. We have posters to sign up for this, sign up for that. So how are we going to address, if students can't have their cell phones on campus, we have to think about how the use of QR codes, how we're currently using them, and how we may not be able to use them as much or not at all. I don't know.
The district has been able to provide a one-to-one initiative, and our devices, our new Chromebooks, have front-facing and world-facing cameras. So they're able to use those devices if they need to
Thank
do
you.
that.
I'd also like to make a comment, just to, also, I know administrators already know this, but just to encourage administrators that this will be a big learning curve for our students who are highly addicted to these phones. And you might need explicit instruction in, this is how we call home and go to the front office. This is how we use this tablet, this is how we communicate, because they might not be using it and they're so used to their phones. So I think it's truly, I have it too, an addiction when you're not getting these quick, updates that you're feeling. So how can we teach and support our students through this transition too? Like, they're going to feel like they're back in the Stone Ages
We have to
without
learn
their
phone
phone.
numbers. We have to learn everybody's phone numbers.
They don't know they've never learned how to operate without them. It's
I
not like
know,
going
right,
back in time.
true.
It's a
They never
totally new
lived.
deal.
Right.
Totally new deal.
So, and I even had, I don't know, I'm just thinking like, maybe we could put some really cool phones around the campuses, like in London, those phone boxes where just if the front office is getting too many calls, like, I don't know, make it cool.
Now, each classroom does have,
Oh, do they?
a Cisco phone in every class,
Each classroom across the district.
across the district. They all have one, so in case they do need to use that or got to get in touch with a parent, they can do it right there from the classroom, so that won't be an issue. And then we do have, I do have Felicia here. So as part of the media team, she's been a part of the process also, just to hear what's going on, keeping up to date. So she does have a media kit that they are looking at rolling out. So I do want her to go over that, the proposed plan.
So we have 2 media kits, one of them being exclusive to the Apogee app. That QR code was shared out last week, I believe Tuesday or Wednesday, during our Summer Leadership Academy. That was sent out to all of our 40,000 followers on Facebook. And we have been promoting it. Every 30 days, there will be a phase that comes out promoting it. I've met with Judith over at DOT, and we will be rolling that out to have 100% of those parents be on our app, or grandparents. As yesterday, during our back to school bash, we had grandparents or guardians there, and they were downloading the app as well. So any opportunity that we have to promote the application, that is our goal, with every 30 days changing or shifting that message. On our marketing rollout for HB 1481, after today's discussion, we do plan to have a teaser out on social media, sent out, just letting parents and family know we are thinking about this, and it will go to vote. Once it is voted on, we will have something out on social media and via that communications out to all parents and anybody that is signed up on our ThrillShare app to get that communication out.
And maybe even a very easy to read 3-bullet, this is how your student will still be able to contact you. Like it's not like there's no contact anymore. There is, and it's going to be just as easy. It's just a different way.
And we will have a web page dedicated to this particular bill, and it will fall within, we've identified it to house within our student services page, and we will lead any questions there as well. So that will land under student services.
I think your department does a great job of like snippet and educational videos. I know when y'all did, for example, the commercial, I call it a commercial, for the superintendent's golf tournament. But if y'all did a quick little video commercial like that can be played on the scoreboard, because
Sure.
football season's coming up, and that is a captive audience that you have for 2.5 hours, just to remind parents and families that are
Yes,
there.
we have fun with those clever messages, so thank you.
I think I have a question about teachers allowed to use their cell phone. What do we decide? Yes.
Well, that's not part of this policy, is it?
It's not, but it's a question that's come up.
It just come up.
And I think Dr. Canales addressed it when he said, we want the teachers to be an example as well, right? Not use it.
Well, I'd like to make a comment, because I agree with that. At the same time, their teachers are professionals. They've been to college. They're well-educated. They're these professionals, and there's a difference. The reason why we're banning it for children is because they're children, and their brains are not fully formed yet. So I would hate to treat our competent adults like, you can't use this. Obviously, I don't believe our teachers are using it during the instructional period anyway, but they are adults, and I don't feel that this ban applies to them.
It doesn't.
I mean, I know it.
I'm in line with what Trustee Kittleman's saying. And I think it's a good discussion, but maybe, I'm not sure what our policy is for teachers on cell phones, but that might be a policy for consideration in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we just put that question because it's been asked since this House Bill 1481 was approved, but it doesn't apply to teachers at all. That's correct.
Oh, okay, good.
I do want to circle back. So I guess on the discussion, the recommendation that the administration would bring in on one of them is that cell phones will be allowed to be brought by the students at all levels, elementary through high school, as long as it's put away in a purse or a backpack. So that's I think from what I understand in the discussion, that's a recommendation that we would bring, that it would be allowed for students elementary through high school then to bring a phone, but it would have to be out of sight in their backpack or a purse. Somewhere.
Trustee Ray.
Yeah, so I know thank you. I know our discussion has been really robust, and I agree with a lot of what's been said. So I won't repeat any of that, but I think as it relates to teachers, I definitely think that while yes, I agree that there's multiple reasons why we're implementing this, but this didn't come from us, it came from the legislature. And so I definitely do not support broadening that reach to include our professional teachers. So I will say that. And then I do agree also, Dr. Gutierrez, and I was hoping that you would address that with regard to one uniform policy across all grade levels. I think it's hard enough for us to try to implement something like this, much less to have it different at every grade or every middle, elementary, and high school. One concern that I had about enforcement of this policy is I worry about how, like, confiscating phones and all of that is going to burden further our professionals. So I don't know if there's something, I don't know what we could possibly do about that, but I just think that we are adding a whole other level of work that is beyond education. So
I think it also has the potential to create an issue where students could get in real trouble if they say, hey, you're not taking my phone, and it ends up escalating into something different.
Right.
So that's also a concern. I totally see that.
I spoke, I'm sure, there's plenty of principals here, I'm sure. I spoke to Mr. McClenny, who told me when he was the principal at Morris that they were already doing this and there were no problems. So I don't know if anyone wants to speak to the way that it works.
Can any of our principals, since
On your campus.
you're in the front lines with the staff and the kids, tell us about some of the things that we talked about, and give us your feedback as well.
And I think the feedback from middle school, right? At the middle school level, it is very similar to what we're already doing. At Morris, we are one of the few middle schools that allow kids to use them at lunchtime. So that's going to be the biggest change for our kids. I did send a message out to parents early, a voicemail that went out as soon as we found out about 1481, to talk to your kids already, because we weren't sure what the direction was going to be, but we knew coming in that they wouldn't be able to use them. And I think that's really the key to it, right? That we let parents know early, we let kids know early, and we just bombard them as much as we can that hey, kids have to keep them put away. It's going to be a very different picture at the high school. But the middle school, most of us are already doing it. It's easy for us to communicate messages to kids. We have intercoms, we have phones in the classrooms. It's a matter of letting our parents know. I love that bullet idea of, hey, this is how you can still reach your kids. Parents need that reassurance. And I think it's important that we let parents know too, hey, our two options were none at all, which we're not for. We want to make sure that you still feel safe, that you can get to your kid if we truly have an emergency. I was at Memorial when we had a true emergency, and we got on the intercom and we let kids know, hey, at this point, pull your phones out and you can let your parents know what's going on. But the reality is, in that emergency, when somebody is running through the hallways, you don't want phones out. You don't want kids saying anything. You want them quiet in the back corner, doing what they need to do. And so it helps us in all fronts in that way.
Thank you. I did want to add one more thing. I think we're going to have a high volume of calls first couple of weeks, not just because of this. You get all kinds of calls first couple of weeks already, but this is going to compound that. Are the campuses prepared? Do you have one person that's going to be dedicated to answering phones? Because this is frustrating as it is. To be calling and nobody's answering the phone we're going to get a lot of angry community members because nobody's answering the phone. Not because they don't want to, but because of the volume. Yeah, so I think that just something to think about, and let's make sure that we have the phones answered as promptly and as much as possible without delay, because parents will get frustrated.
And on that note, I know it's hard when people call and they've already been trying and they're just anxious about whatever situation. I know one of my biggest things with our schools is sometimes our receptionists and people who are answering the phones are the front line or the representative of our district. And so in that sense, we have to treat it like a business, and customer service is key. Being positive and upbeat and happy and polite. And I know that is so hard because our staff is so great, but I know that it can get overwhelming, and it's a lot easier to be snippy when it's over the phone and your person's not right in front of you. So I encourage all of our principals to have those conversations with whoever is answering the phones, because it is going to take a little bit of time to
And there may
adjust.
be maybe respite for whoever's answering the phone,
Yes.
switch people out so that you got a fresh,
Phone
calm
duty.
Yeah, phone duty. Just something to make it a little better on the community and, of course, the campuses. It's gonna be a little bit of chaos.
Yeah, Mr. Gutierrez, a principal at Nicky Rowe High School.
So I had come from the middle school. I had been 10 years as a principal at a middle school. So at the middle school, our policy was often in the backpack. And so I get to the high school a couple of years ago, and it was a complete shock to me, so many cell phones out at all times. And the staff recognizes that and recognized that at the high school that it was an issue. There was an issue with the big-time distraction that cell phones can be to students. So we had already started down that road at Nicky Rowe with the blessing of Dr. Gutierrez and communication with our staff and communication with our community and our parents. So we had already started to implement some procedures to kind of curtail the usage of phones. So I think the students will adapt. If there's an open line of communication and everybody's in agreement that this is in the best interest of the students for these to be put away, and so that way they can concentrate better. I think it starts with that, a clear communication with the parents, and we're all on the same page and on the same team. They help with the communication with the students before they even arrive on the first day of school. And I anticipate that the problem will be minimal and the students will adjust. We will have some cases of some students that won't adjust just by us telling, but then just following the procedures and implementing some of the consequences. I don't think it'll be as a big issue as we might foresee that it will be. I think the students will adjust, and I think we can implement that at the high school. If it's off and in the backpack or out of sight and in the backpack, I think students will adjust.
Should we have a short grace period? Like first couple days of school, or maybe the first week where?
There is warning there. Like,
Yeah.
There is a warning part there.
Huh?
But I think the communication, like everybody already knows, like I think when the student steps into the building on the first day, they will already know what the expectation is, and we just have to hold them to the expectation if we really want it to work, and then we all just have to be consistent. As the adults at the campus, it's not just the principal or the admin team, but it's all staff working together, and I think we can implement it successfully, but I think we have to start right off the bat, and there is a grace period there is a warning, the first violation, but I think if we all implement it with fidelity, I think it'll work.
I was thinking of the grace period just on the consequences, like, just to give them like maybe like 2 weeks, like, we're not gonna implement the consequences, the 4 steps yet, but, 2 weeks to put it away. After the second week, then start with the levels of consequences.
I don't agree with that. I think you have to, it's state law. It's like.
No, they would still be tucked away. They would be, but I'm saying to implement the consequence 1, 2, 3, and 4, no, they would still be put away, but they're gonna challenge us. It's gonna be there.
And that's gonna be the point.
And
Like
we're gonna
that's gonna be the moment that's gonna break it or make it.
We're gonna have consequences on
challenge.
day 1, but if we can
Because
use
just
it.
think on day one, you're gonna have 800 violations. I'm making up a number, but, why not give a short grace period to say, this is the policy, you now know the policy,
Yeah.
but starting
I
on,
think it's
what
more
is
than
day
policy,
3,
it's
consequences
state law.
will.
But it is going to be, it is going to be implemented on day 1 that cell phones will be put away in the backpack, cannot be seen and off and completely. Now, some of them are going to try to take it out. I'm talking about that grace period to not implement the consequences, but just to tell them, the rules, it cannot be on display, put it away. After 2 weeks or a week, whatever we decide, then after that, we start with implementing the consequences. But day 1, they will not be part of they will have to be put away. We will comply with the law. We're just talking about when do we implement those consequences? Because I do believe that on day 1, we will have hundreds of consequences already at the level 1. I would think. Mr. Castillo from Memorial High School?
Good evening. From Memorial High School, one of the assistant principals. I know we've been talking about this since last year, so second semester, we kind of started talking about how we're gonna start addressing our teachers and our students with it. So of course, there's a bunch of the buy-in from our parents and also from our staff members, kind of make sure aboard with this House Bill 1481. Today, during registration, we had an open communication with our parents discussing it. They're on board. I think you said, like you said, communicate with our parents and talk about the expectations, what does this include. And I think moving forward, I think it's gonna work, but of course, it's making the buy-in, everyone understands the reason behind it, and of course, giving, like you said, Ms. Bechtel, and I think Mr. Gutierrez mentioned, just, these are the other procedures we have. We have phones in the classroom. You have to make a phone call, please go to the front office, and being acceptable and providing that time for them to do so. But I think the communication is gonna be a big aspect about it, making sure they're having those talks. I think making those public forums of voicing the concerns, that they want to hear them out still, but are saying this is how it's gonna work. And of course, like I said, Dr. Gutierrez, think also like the first 2 weeks, okay, this is the expectation, put away your phone. And of course, keeping them backpack. The high school, we have kids on campus till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, so we know they have to have some kind of communication with their parents in case of emergencies after school. And of course, just making sure that we do have a phone available at any time for those students, like you said. I think Mr. Garza mentioned, like being available to make those calls. So I think moving forward, we're able to do it, but it's gonna take work. I think communication across all the campuses, like through the high schools, the middle schools, and elementaries, of course, being consistent. I think we're able to make it work. It's gonna take some time, but we're able to do it in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. I think no grace period. I'm sorry, I disagree.
Sorry, I agree, no grace period. It's a law.
I know, but.
You know that some kids could have all 4 in 1 week.
By second period, sir. Myself included.
Right.
And that's,
Ms. Gonzalez from
Yes, also
Example
for
of what not
our
to do.
students who are taking dual courses. I know for collegiate, I'm not sure what they use for STC. They used to use Blackboard at UTRGV. They are changing the program, which we're going to have an orientation on. But that required the 2-factor authentication, where the students had to take out their phone, they would get a code, and then they'd be able to log in. So they have told me that they are quickly trying to find a resolution, but they don't know how quickly they'll be able to circumvent that. So just a heads up that first day of school, they might not have that ready, and our students will need to log into their, it's not Blackboard anymore. I can't remember the name of the program, but they will need it. So I don't know how we would do that.
Okay, just so I'm understanding. There are a certain group of students who are dual credit or dual enrollment, who, because they take courses that are offered by an institution of higher education, currently have to have access to a personal communication device in order to access the learning management system that is a required component of the course that they are taking.
Yes.
And you do not think that we will have a solution to the 2-factor identification by the first day of school?
UTRGV is trying to find a resolution for that. And like I said, I'm not sure what our SCC students are using and if they require that as well, but just a heads up on that as well. I know on our part, as soon as they come up with a resolution, then we'll share that. But.
Just a quick comment, because on the proposed policies that were sent over, it said regarding confiscation of the telephones, it says that the district employees shall. If you were to change it to may, that gives them discretion based on totality of the circumstances, everything that's going on. Does that change anything legal, John?
as far as the policy goes, you can make whatever
To give the teacher the discretion to?
This is, well, so what we've done, what we had to do with one student, because of all our students that were in the program, only one didn't have a phone. And so we had to put our counselor's phone number. And so every time,
I got you.
So every student, it's for them to log into their Blackboard.
Ms. Gonzalez, maybe because it does allow the individual education plan as an exception. That could be, just thinking aloud here, that could be considered an individual education plan for that cohort of students.
Until they find a solution.
Until they find a solution, because part of the exception is an IEP, which is an individual education plan. We can set individual education plans that they need to be using their devices for their collegiate.
Well, that would be for ours, but I don't know for STC, any students taking courses with STC.
Judith, what are your thoughts on that, Judith? Is there another way to go around that, or can you communicate with UTRGV maybe?
It's UTRGV.
Yeah, we can try to work with them on that. The reason it's the multi-factor authentication that they're getting to be able to log into the account. So that's the struggle that we would have if we were to have these limitations for our staff, because right now, there's no way that we could have them log in if they don't have their device available.
What about the third exception allows for, quote, campus safety protocols? Couldn't we consider this a safety protocol? I mean, it's,
Well, I think the exceptions as far as like what we're providing as far as academics has the leeway to, if the child needs these resources, I think it clearly allows us to make accommodations while we try to get a resolution from the institution, or if there's a resolution. For me right now, I wouldn't even know how to handle that if we were go that route. Now, for students, we were already looking for multi-factor authentication, and I mean, right now, we're hitting a roadblock right now, so, yes. So.
One question to Dr. Gutierrez's idea, would having something like use of personal communication device in an IEP necessitate calling an ARD in order to have an IEP? If so, that feels like a pretty heavy lift to try to pull off in the next 14 days.
I think the exceptions allow for us to make just a policy exception for advancing their educational needs.
I would add, I cannot fathom that if some kids were using their phones because we weren't able to move the technology fast enough, so to speak, to allow them to be in compliance with the policy, that we would get in any trouble. Number one, there is nothing stated in this law that makes me think that there's some mechanism where they can punish us. Number two, it's not the intent or the spirit of the law. If you've read, I'm a nerd, so I do read the background of the reasons behind the legislation, and so this doesn't violate the intent of the legislation at all if we need to do that. I would like to address the issue of shall versus may. Respectfully, I would caution against saying may. I think shall, because once you start having the discretion, then it becomes each campus can enforce it a little different than other campuses can, and I can tell you from having sat through more grievances than I can count, that those issues come up very quickly amongst parents, where they will say, well, so-and-so was given this opportunity versus somebody else was given this opportunity, or this campus only punishes kids with this many days versus this many days. So having, whatever it might be, having that uniformity is helpful, and I think that it is probably helpful, frankly, not only for us here, but also on the campus level to give them the tools they need to enforce it a little better.
Valid point. Thanks for the clarification.
while the policy outlines like the broad exceptions, is the administration thinking about further defining these in regulation about, you know, for example, this situation here, would that be a similar circumstance under number 2, or a safety protocol number 3, those kind of?
I think I'll go with what Trustee Regalado suggested, to put it in the policy for those students that are in higher education, that there may be some exceptions to that for the use of their device. I think it would be something that we could put language in the policy.
I guess for uniformity, I guess defining these exceptions further,
Yes.
so that we don't keep running into the issue of like, well, you're letting this student but not that student.
Yeah, and that takes me to the IEPs, because where we have right now current individual education plans is with our special education students, that there's an art meeting. But can you tell us on this type of a timeline that we have to implement this House Bill 1481, is this going to put a crunch in your timelines with the arts to be able to?
So for students to have an IEP, they need to be identified under special education or have a 504 plan, right? So those are the students who qualify for an IEP plan. Not all students qualify for one. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is you would need a medical prescription from a doctor stating why they would need to have a communication device on them. And so some of the examples would be a medical reason, right? Would be blood sugar, and because they're tracking their blood sugar levels, they have an alert system on their phone that they have to have with them. That would be one. Or a communication app. So in order to communicate with the teachers or the students in the classroom, they have to have the device on them in order to communicate. We have students who have communication boards. So we can easily move the app from a phone to a device. So
Okay.
I would recommend that. But yes, we would have to have it in an ARD. And
But is it gonna, is there quite a few arts that need to be taking place like very quickly, or?
so yes, if we would have to look at how many students have the examples I'm giving you, like a communication app, a medical already active ARD, and go back to ARD and put an IEP in place and have it documented in the ARD, the reason why. And the ARD can decide. And so every student would have to be individualized on the why and the conversation, involve the parents, involve students on why we have to have it documented that they need to carry a device.
But you're saying for the ARD wouldn't apply for a student that just needs it to track their blood sugar, right? As long as you
So
have
that
some-
could be, that's actually an example. That's be one example, that they could have a doctor's note that says that they have a blood sugar, and they would have the app that tracks it, and it's an alert that their blood sugar's low. They have to go to the nurse and get insulin injection or something like that.
That doesn't mean they have to have their phone out all day. They
No.
get an alert,
Correct.
they look at it, they go to the nurse.
Yeah.
No, is that,
Put
yeah.
the device away most of the day, or all day if not necessary.
Ms. Quintanilla, I know that's a special education, but
That's a special
would
education.
that also include the 504 kids?
That applies to the
Can you-
individualized accommodation plan. So in the research that I've done as well, is I already wrote out a checklist of what we need to give guidance to the committee, because we do need the medical documentation to substantiate and support that. But one of the things that we have to have in place is guidance to the teacher and the student as when that personal device needs to be stowed away or taken out. So it's not always going to be out. Certainly, for example, we've had situations with type 2 diabetes, for example. During lunch, they must have it. That for sure, yes. Because they're eating and making sure that the diet doesn't spike their sugar.
So we need to consider if a student has it, during lunch,
Oh, my.
that it's a violation of policy for other students to be using that phone.
Correct. And not necessarily that particular student that.
Right, and
is
are they
using it for
both
that.
violating the policy? One by allowing, the other by using? But you can't take that phone away, so what do you do in that situation?
If they have a doctor's.
They just.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
That's one of the stated.
There's an exception.
right, but I'm saying the scenario, I'm a student, I have a documented medical need, but I'm allowing trustee Regalado to use my phone during lunch.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have to consider those.
I would
That's the
ask,
guidance that we have to provide.
right,
to be
my
in possession
clarification
at
would
all
be
times.
in the 504 plan or the IEP, is it spelled out the use of assistive technology, let's call it, which would include a personal communication device? Is that already written and documented in every case that we would need it to restrict the types of functions that those assistive devices could provide?
So in terms of Section 504, we have been we've used general language.
Yep.
But because of this just came into place, we have already some samples of specific language.
Yeah.
And the
But
language
it's
would
not
be-
currently in there, so we would have to go through a
So
revision
currently-
process in those cases for the learning plans?
Correct. Well, just be a little more specific, but it does stipulate, for example, the use to monitor glucose during lunch. It does stipulate that,
Yeah.
but now we need to be more specific as to when to pull out the personal device and when to stow it away.
Yeah.
So certainly.
Are those specifics, John, like 504, special education, because there are exceptions, do they need to be itemized in the local policy, or can it be an administrative procedure that we can create for those exceptions?
Administrator's fine, so those are the big ticket items, as long as we list those in the policy.
And then-
It says these are the four, then as it comes down, the folks that are doing it and implementing it, they can do it as they.
They can do it on an administrative
Right, we don't-
procedures,
at-
okay.
At this level, it doesn't need to be detailed.
Okay.
With that degree of specificity, so long as it's
Okay.
detailed down.
Then we'll put it in policy, what is generally speaking, and then specifically, then it will be administratively procedures written.
Correct, and that's where they get to exercise the discretion that they need and the
Okay.
flexibility they need.
All right, that's what we need to do it, team.
So for special education, it is the ARD decision, and it is an assistive technology plan. And it is specific to an assistive technology plan, whether it's a communication board, whether it's the phone for an alert system, for a medical alert, it is an assistive technology plan. That's what it is.
As it relates, though, to Section 504 or IEP, like, we're not saying that there's a rush that we need to go back and redo their ARDs, right? Because we have the safety and legal exceptions. So I think that covers us until their next review. Like, I don't think we need to make them go back and do all this work again.
Okay.
I mean, I would think, right?
I think it's,
Joel?
I agree with that, especially because it's training purposes. It's already stipulated. We have the medical documentation supporting that the device needs to be utilized. It's more so training. We do this annually, meaning I meet with the 504 coordinators. I make sure that they have their individualized accommodation plans compiled for their teachers. They sit with their teachers, review it, and they go over the stipulations. So now it's being more specific in terms of making sure that we train the teachers and the staff that interact with the students how to manage those personal devices. But it's already, the language is already stated.
If it's already in the plan, then we're safe. There's no issues there.
Okay.
We're good to go.
Yeah. So for special education, we could run a report that just tells us all students who have an AT plan already, and that's how we would start with a comprehensive list by campus. And then as annual ARDs occur, those discussions happen at those points. If parents request an ARD, because a parent can request an ARD at any point, and they come in with a doctor's prescription, and then those discussions will happen at that time.
Yeah, we just need to see how we can communicate that to the principals and the teachers, those exceptions for those kids. It's gonna be
You're right, because I think about a student at lunch, and the people who are informed of the IEP may not be in the general vicinity. There may be another professional on lunch duty that sees a device on a table.
And that's the question I had, because type 1 diabetics have Dexcoms that they use that connects directly with their phone. I think under the letter of the law, the way that it's written, the phone at that point is considered a medical device and not a communication device.
Correct.
But to Trustee Carrione's point, how are we going to educate everybody? Let's talk about high school. So many people in that high school, if they see a type 1 diabetic that's there, that has their phone that's monitoring their glucose levels, and they go up and take the phone away, don't listen to the child or the student.
Well, I'm just thinking right now loud, we probably have to give them a sticker or something that identifies their phone as a
It's
phone.
confidentiality too. I do want to, it is confidential, but I do
Well,
want to mention
we don't know what it
that,
is, we just know that they have permission.
or reiterate what I mentioned earlier is,
That's
we
all we
do
know.
have
That's all
to,
we're
by
given.
law, we have to comply and train the teachers as well as the staff who interact with our students.
Yes.
So if it's the staff on lunch duty, our 504 coordinators, and I'm sure our SPED coordinators are trained that they must bring in our paraprofessional staff as well as the professional staff who interact with our students with IEPs or behavior intervention plans or medical plans for my department. They have to be trained and notified, and so they also know who our chronic illnesses are, so that in case of a medical emergency, they're quick to respond.
Thanks. And a lot of these questions that are being asked tonight or that are being posed by the board are questions that we have gotten asked by community members throughout the entire summer. So I'm glad that everybody's being able to voice them, because they are going to come up.
Yes, they
and there's a lot of parents out there that are going to have more questions. So I'm glad we're having this discussion.
Yeah, we'll bring the policy adopted and then work all those details. Administratively, we're gonna have to work those details ourselves.
Because since do we issue IDs to elementary school students? No, right?
ID card?
Yeah, oh, we do? I mean, could you put something on the ID that just like a check mark or something that shows, like, I can use my phone type? Is that allowed?
On an ID?
Yeah.
No, yeah. We have to take care of
We're just gonna have
confidentiality,
to
you know,
group on that.
HIPAA, FERPA, all of that.
Well, what if, like, you know, if you're TSA pre-check and you go through the airport and you don't have to take off your shoes, and then you get that little card, and we just have a general laminated card that, like, if a student has to use their phone, they fall, whatever umbrella they fall under, so it's still confidential, but like an adult can see, okay, phone, card, you're good, or something like that.
And I just want to,
with that.
we don't have, I don't have an extensive list of students, medical 504s needing a personal device. My list is quite short, it's not as extensive. However, I can see the challenge at the secondary level. Elementary, I was a former elementary teacher. It's a communication, it's immediate, and you're working with top 800 students. But I do see the challenge, but we do have very strong 504 coordinators, and they know that when we mean business, you know, we make sure that our students are well taken care of and that we don't violate HIPAA.
And I have talked to several parents who do say that, and they have children in different categories, right? So you have elementary, secondary, and so they have said that they treat the staff there as informed, and they've been adaptive to the needs of the student. So it's very responsive, and so the staff's already doing that here at McAllen.
Yeah.
They're being responsive to the children with those needs.
What percentage of students would you say that, you know, may need it for a medical device but are not on a 504 plan?
In a special education setting?
Well, they're not.
That are not on a 504?
Right.
Oh. I couldn't give you a percentage at the top of my head. but
And what would we do? They would just have to bring a prescription
Have an
in
ARD?
to the nurse's office?
No, it would have, for special education, it would have to go through the ARD committee and then the
But
ARD
I'm not talking
committee
about
decides.
special education.
Oh,
I'm
you're
just
talking about 504.
Student with
Kids who don't
diabetes.
have
for
a
example.
So in
504
general education students, we would need a medical form, and then there's a medical condition, so we would have to evaluate, meaning we make sure that it's the medical doctor, we have the proper documentation, we go to a 504 meeting, and then we evaluate and we make a plan. We write out a plan. But generally, if it's a general ed student and the parent has not brought in the documentation, there's no way we can monitor those numbers or pretty much support that.
So
we might have a large number of those.
coming in,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah.
That'd be one, we'd have to communicate really with the campus, or the campus nurse, say, you know what, I do have type 1 diabetes, I'm not on a 504 plan, right? You might not be on one, but here's my excuse, I need to use my phone for that purpose. And then the nurse communicates to the team and the principal and the teachers, and it's gonna be getting to know all those different students, right? Because you're looking at lunches of 600, 700 at a time, and knowing who those kids are. I mean, for the most part, I know that the principals try to put the same teachers on duty during, the AB lunch, B lunch, and C lunches. That way, just knowing who the kids are, and then just telling the student, hey, you're not using your phone you can't be on, just because you have that, you can't be on TikTok, or you can't be on, put your phone away. And that's a warning for the student already. And then letting the parent know, hey, if he has it for a medical plan, he can't be using it for any other thing than that medical plan, right? So making sure that they're monitoring, not seeing him online doing other things, so the kids aren't looking like, well, he's on the phone.
So for informational purposes, the parents or the students that already have those plans, that have already provided documentation, there's no requirement to bring it forth again, right? So whatever's on file,
Correct.
they're good, okay.
The language is ready, yes.
And what we need from administratively from the board is the adoption of the local policy along with the student code of conduct, the consequences. And then everything else that we're discussing here is the specifics that we would have to come as an administration and put those procedures and guidelines that we need to implement for 504, special education, and higher education. But those would be administrative procedures.
I know we've seen this part here, I don't know if we can move on to, I would like to show the two policies, that way the public can see that as well. So you do have the one policy there that does state, a student shall not use a personal communication device on school property during the school day. While on school property, the student shall store any personal communication device in accordance with administrative regulation. And that's where you all help us decide on backpack, only or purse.
Dr. Canales, can I ask one question? The school day, that means Monday through Friday. It does not incorporate a UIL competition like on a Saturday.
To my knowledge, it's only Monday through Friday during the instructional school
I
day
just got
at
that
the
question a
campus.
few minutes ago too from
School
somebody in
time.
the public.
I mean, do we need to further define that to clarify, when that bell rings, athletes can pull it out if they're at practice? I'm assuming that coaches allow them. But, I don't want students to be constantly getting in trouble because we're not clear as to when they can use their phone on campus.
So on this one here, it does say on school property. So, if they're off in an event, it's not on our.
But I think we need to define a school day that is during the instructional day.
Yes.
And not it's like they have basketball practice after school. That's not applied.
And on the previous slide, we did put the times, that we do have that are slotted for elementary, middle school, and the high school, and that'll also be in the handbook.
So that will be
Just
defined
have that
during that
posted
time.
front door
That's school
in
day.
schools, just like,
Yeah.
no
Yes.
phones from this to this time. Just easy to read.
From bell to bell.
Yeah, bell to bell.
We would, that's a good idea to post the times of when the phone ban is in effect,
Yes,
which
sir.
is during those times.
Saturate
So
the
write that
school
on the
with those
notes,
posters.
I've been trying to get on the app and I can't figure it out.
It's a work in progress.
It's, it'll come in time.
I don't know my password.
They'll figure it out quickly.
Right, so it
Maybe
does,
they
this
did
is the
that.
part here where it does kind of talk about, student violates a policy, we go into the student code of conduct, we'll add that in there, when the time takes place, an authorized district employee, it does say shall confiscate a student's personal communication device, right, so we have to do it. That is used in violation of this policy or any applicable, regulations. Right, and then going down further, it kind of talks about, it says the district shall not dispose of the personal communication device. This was an option to dispose. We chose, I don't think anybody wants to dispose of that device. So it does talk about it there. And then a student shall be authorized to use a personal communication device on school property during the school day only under the following circumstances. The student's use is necessary for implementation of the individualized education program, a 504 plan or similar program or plan, and the student's use is required due to a documented need based on directive from a qualified physician. So that will qualify for those that maybe are not on a 504 or IEP plan.
I have a question on the shall language. Maybe John, you can, because it says the shall confiscate a student's phone if it's used in violation of this policy. Now, there's students that can use it with the exceptions, but even if they violate the policy, does this policy give us wiggle room to not confiscate the phone because they need it for medical purposes?
Well, that's a great point.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure, and so for instance, if you have a student that has blood sugar monitoring, something like that, would I advise taking their phone away from them completely? Nope, I definitely would not, because even if they wind up violating it and they have to go to ISS, they're gonna have to have that cell phone with them in ISS anyways to be able to monitor it. So that's just a whole nother can of worms we're gonna have to figure out as we go along, which is, and that's
Maybe we
something
can clarify that the consequences apply, but confiscation may not apply?
Correct, so that's something we can work out in the handbook portion of it. So policy-wise, at y'all's level, we can leave it like that, but in the handbook, we can talk about, look, if you have a 504 plan or you have some medical need, you can still be punished. However, maybe that punishment doesn't include the confiscation, but there's no reason you can't go to on campus if need be.
Thanks.
Just to clarify that.
Go ahead, finish.
And then the last one, bullet number 3, the student's use is necessary to comply with a health or safety requirement imposed by law or as part of the district campus safety protocols. And then the implementation, the superintendent shall develop regulations to implement this policy. And then annually, the superintendent shall report to the board of the implementation and compliance of this policy.
Yeah, and that's where it comes, the administrative procedures on the implementation and compliance.
Correct.
That's on us, on the administration.
All right, so just to be super clear, this is the language of the policy that allows possession but restricts use.
Correct.
Thank you.
And then the next policy,
It's number 2. No, that was number 1.
this is the one that just said the student cannot bring. So a student is prohibited from possessing or using a personal communication device on school property during the school day. A student who violates this policy and any regulation shall be subject to discipline in accordance with the board-adopted student code of conduct. An authorized district employee shall confiscate the device, a personal device, in violation of applicable regulations. And then further down, it kind of goes over the same thing we went over. The district shall dispose. We're not choosing to do that, but that's the policy has it. Dispose of the personal communication device. The district shall provide appropriate notice, and devices that are not retrieved shall be stored in accordance with administrative regulation. A student shall be authorized to possess and use personal communication devices on school property during the school day only under the following circumstance. Number 1, the student's use is necessary for implementation of the student's individualized education program. So we chose for them not to bring it. They could bring it if they fall under these categories here. Number 2, the student's use is required due to documented need. And number 3, the student's use is necessary to comply with the health or safety requirements. So that's the only way they could bring the device to school is under these 3 areas only.
So in that policy then, if we decide to implement it to where they can bring it to school, then we'd remove the student is prohibited from possessing, right? And just keep it as using.
Correct.
on
We keep it
that
with the
policy.
first one that says, students may bring it, but shall be stored away, and put away during the school day.
And then I had a question for Mr. Ball regarding the, when we're taking the phones away, is there something that we should put saying that the district's not responsible for any lost or stolen device?
There is language in there.
It is, okay.
There's
I got
language in there that
confused between the
says
two
basically
policies then.
if you violate this policy and we take your phone and it's lost, broken, stolen, misplaced, pick whatever word you want.
Dr. Canales,
That's not our fault.
the policy that we're recommending is going to be where the device will be brought to school but put away in a backpack. Not to completely eliminate bringing cell phones. The only policy that we're focusing on, because from what I gather from our discussion, is to bring the recommendation for the second reading of the policy where the students are allowed to bring the phone, have it stored away out of sight in their backpack or purse or.
Yeah, stored away in
That's
their
the
backpack.
policy that we're bringing as a second reading.
Correct.
Okay. So just to clarify that. And then the other part that we're gonna bring is the 4 levels on the student code of conduct on the consequences if they violate the local policy with a cell phone.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So
Which
here
we already
did add,
covered those 4,
Mr.
right? Those, okay, they're up there.
Rivera,
Oh, perfect, got it.
you know, powered off or set to silent mode with no vibrations. And then we did put on there about us not being responsible as well. On the very bottom, the district is not responsible for any lost, stolen, or damaged personal communication device, including that have been confiscated in accordance with this policy.
Yeah.
Are we required to give an appeal, like an option to appeal a decision to confiscate a phone?
I don't know.
It's certainly not in any of the legislation that came out, that was signed by the governor. Now, there's no doubt in my mind, we're gonna get a whole influx of F&Gs and parents that are gonna be filing all kinds of grievances / appeals, and they have an absolute right to do that. There's nothing we can do. We're just gonna have to deal with that as they come along.
Okay.
And I think the way we have it set up is we're giving it back to them at the end of the day, with the student picking it up and then the parent picking it up. So we're not keeping it for, I think in the past, we used to give it for 10 days, 15 days. We're not keeping it at all. They just have to pick it up that next day. If they don't come, they can get it the next day. As needed.
And this is something that has been done. My brother graduated from Memorial over 10 years ago, and cell phones were used then, and these procedures were being done then. I mean, don't want to call him out, but he got his cell phone taken away a time or two, and so there was times that he didn't have it for a couple days, and then the parent would have to go and pick it up. So it's something that's been done in our schools.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, this would be then the student code of conduct that will bring this 4 consequences, but they're outlined. But going back to what Trustee Carrion said earlier, is that we're not going to be implementing a fine to the parents to pay a fine to get the phone back. We're not doing that. We feel that by having these 4 steps, would be good enough for everyone to understand and follow.
Yeah.
I think what I can see happening actually in having a kid that just graduated is the communication when you're driving to school is they're always on their phone and you're not really communicating. I think we're gonna have the reverse when some parents say, no, keep it for 3 days or keep it for a week is probably what they might not want to pick it up that day, for some of them, so. we might have to deal with some
I'm
of that.
excited to hear about all the positive stories that come out of
Yes.
this.
We gotta be positive on this.
It would take us a
The
year.
attention.
It was gonna take us about a year to adapt.
Well, to Dr. Kittelman's point, I think the positive is we should see improvement in social ability skills in our students, in development, being able to learn, pay attention. The more and more studies I've seen, and I encourage every parent, every teacher to look this, just go on YouTube and see cell phones effect or screen time's effect on children, and it's profound, the negative effects that constant screen time has. It's not just children, it's all of us, right? We're all addicted to our phones. But, when you go to lunch or dinner and you're sitting with friends or family and all of you are on your phones, it's like, well, why are we sitting together? We could do this at home.
Think about also, we keep talking about in the case of an emergency, right? Communicating with the parents, things like that. Think about all the positive that this is gonna bring with how many kids have gotten in trouble for taking inappropriate photos, sharing them, thinking it's okay to send it forward and things like that. Like all of that's gonna stop, hopefully, and that's a big plus when kids are not getting in trouble and maybe, a black mark on their record for things like that, because if I'm a kid and somebody sends me something, I'm just part of that situation, not even having asked for it or whatever, so that's a positive as well, kids will not be getting in trouble that way, so I think there's a lot of good that'll come from it.
Is there a process when and if phones get confiscated, like it goes in a Ziploc, a student signs that they are aware that it was confiscated and that goes in the school safe or that goes in the teacher's desk? That's I think where we need to also be prepared.
Any principal, what do you do when you've confiscated phones in the past? How do we answer to that question? Anyone? You all deal with this daily in the past.
Hello, Mr. Tamez from Nicky High School, one of the assistant principals. So already brainstorming, being on this committee, knowing that we're going to have to utilize our DDF form and what have you, I've already brainstormed with my secretary, being the CBC, handling discipline, my secretary is, my right-hand woman. So we're already getting ready,
She's going to be answering the phone.
All week, all day.
So, with that DDF form that we're going to be asked to utilize to track the amount of violations, because it is true, I think somebody said that maybe they could get all 4 violations in one day, right? So it's going to be difficult to kind of track, one teacher, you do the DDF, and another teacher do DDF. So we're brainstorming, me and her, and I've talked to my boss, about centralizing that form with me and the secretary, and already start utilizing this in the students' folder. That way, if we get the phone confiscated by a teacher and they bring the phone to us, we'll start marking and keeping track of the amount of times the phone's been taken away. And then we're going to have a place that we will centrally store the phone. That way, it'll be marked, it'll be safe, and it'll have their, name and ID number and what have you, and they can come pick it up at the end of the day, whether it be the student for that first violation or the parent for the subsequent violations.
What's a DDF form?
The discipline, the district discipline form. So it's a lower level than a referral form.
I'm just asking for the sake of the public.
Oh,
I'm big on acronyms and making
There
sure
you
that the public knows what we're talking about.
So it's a form that's lower than a formal referral form, that would be documented in Skyward, So this form would be locally housed at the campus level, that we can keep track of these lower level infractions.
Just so the viewing public
Yeah, there
knows,
you go.
because they're gonna be like, I didn't know what a DDF was, and you took my kid's phone, and.
Yeah, so we're brainstorming at the campus, but that's one thing that we're trying to brainstorm to centralize that.
Hopefully that's, hopefully that's uniform across the district so that it's not different at one campus versus another, because that.
No, that's part of our committee and administrative responsibilities to be consistent across the district.
And thank you to the committee for that, because, like, take for instance, when we were talking about start times for school and stuff, I got a lot of calls about, well, this school starts at this time and that school starts at that time, and so the more uniform we are, the less of that can happen.
May I ask your personal opinion on having a grace period or going for it?
As an administrator, already going on 5 years, it's if we're going to implement a rule, we need to implement the rule. And if it's now the law, we're going to implement the law.
It's a law.
Yeah.
Just curious.
It's not just a policy, it's a law.
I'm nice. Just a nice guy.
Can't do it.
I'm a nice guy. I'm just trying to be
Texting
fair.
and driving is a law, right? The day that it went into effect, you couldn't say, well, you know what, I won't do
I'm
it
sure the kids love
again. You're gonna get it
They
today.
love it for that.
Sorry, Doc.
To all the students, I'm trying.
Well, I think the part you're getting at is the kid is the 4th one and one day and you're an ISS the next day, then you're in there for 3, so I think. That's the part. But we definitely want to start, and the reason, back to you, Ms. Peña, the reason we want to start at the district document form, and you too, Ms. De La Garza, is that we don't want to go into the system with the automatic referral, because, that goes into the Skyward, and that goes into data, so, they have a warning, and then we go with the most restrictive at that time, so that we give kids that opportunity to correct behavior or habit, which is, it takes how many days to break a habit?
21.
21
A lot
days.
of
So,
DDF forms.
So
I
just
think
everybody go to
that'll
the
be the
gym
goal
for
of our
21
principals
days, and you'll be fine.
It's 21 days, right, to break that habit there. The next part we do have for you all is the sample of the student code of conduct. This is brought to the board every single year for approval. We know we do have to wait until the 12th to get this out because of the second reading, so we can make a determination on whether we're going to allow or not allow, but I think we're leaning towards allowing students to bring the device to school.
Yes,
and not-
that's gonna be the
right?
recommendation.
So, right here, when you look at this part here, I can kind of just scroll through it. And I do have Jesse Martinez here who can also speak to this as well. Jesse's here, to help us with the committee to put this here. But here it just gives us two different options that we can only choose from in our student code of conduct. Is one, it says bring or use a personal communication device, including a cell phone or other electronic device on school property during the school day. And then once you click on that thing there, it'll get a glossary of what the school day is, and we'll add the times and that part there. Or it says here, use a personal communication device, including a cell phone or other electronic device on school property during the school day. So we gotta make sure that we just put on there which one we're gonna follow. We already know which one we're kind of leaning towards. We can start writing that for the next time. And then everything in blue is basically the law that we have to put that into our policy that has changed. So that's what we're recommending. There is approval on this on the 12th when we get back.
So being that there's on here, it's recommending action, can I entertain a motion? This is number 3?
Now, are you on the last one on the adoption of the?
Of the
Okay.
student, yeah, this is, we put on there to approve or not. We don't have to go on
I'm
this
recommending
one.
if we could table it and just bring it all together for the 12th.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can I entertain a motion to table?
So move to table.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by trustee Peña, second by trustee Carrion. All in favor?
Is that on item number 5?
Yes,
Yes.
because we want to bring it all
I said
together on the
3,
12th.
right? Sorry.
Because we were on item 3 up there, but it's.
It looks like a 3
Number
for
5.
me.
Yeah.
Maybe I need glasses. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Table.
That's it.
Okay, and item number 6, adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Regalado, second by trustee Dr. Kittleman. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
What about the misses?
Motion passes
Mrs.
7-0.
Dr.
Thank you all, and thank you to the
Thank you for
committee
the hard
for all
work,
your
yeah.
hard work.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone in the
Good luck,
committee and
everybody.
principals, everyone here. Thank you so much.